This is a story of a time I was completely ignored because I was disabled. A woman assumed because I was physically disabled that I was also intellectually disabled. Now, my brain surgery and stroke, it happened on August 6th, 2010. We'll never forget that day as long as I live. But about 2 weeks afterwards, I was in an inpatient rehab facility recovering from my stroke. And it was in downtown Chicago, right off Lakeshore Drive. Great location, actually. And every single day, my mother would come and visit me. And they would allow the patients to leave as long as the visitor was with them. So my mother, every day as long as the weather would permit, would wheel me out. And today actually happened to be right before the Air and Water Show, which is a huge deal in Chicago. It's when civil and military pilots and planes, and they fly like side by side and do all these aerobatic tricks and free falls and all this stuff right over Lake Michigan. So they were actually practicing at the time. So there was a small crowd congregating on Lakeshore Drive just to watch them practice. And so my mother parked my wheelchair there, and just to give you a context of how I was when I first was, sick, I was wheelchair bound, first off. Secondly, I had an eye patch on my right eye, and this was because I had something called wild eyes, where my eyes spin independently of each other. And that is because when the blood flow of your brain changes, everything else in your body changes, because your blood flows a certain way for, at the time, 31 years, and then it changed. So my eyes stopped spinning, but they settled in very different places. So I had double vision. So to sort of prevent the double vision, I wore an eye patch. Also, my head leaned to the side, almost to my shoulder. And this actually felt like my head was sticking straight up. And that had to do with the blood flow in the brain, because instead of my head feeling like this was directionally straight up, it felt like this was normal. So I'm sitting there, with my eye patch on, in a wheelchair with my head leaned over, and an ice cream truck comes, and my mother asks me if I want an ice cream. And of course I want ice cream. My favorite ice cream since I was a kid was an ice cream sandwich. So I had to have an ice cream sandwich. And so she gives me an ice cream sandwich. Mind you, it is in the middle of August, okay? And so I am sitting there and I'm eating this ice cream sandwich, and I'm fighting the heat with this sandwich, and I'm eating it. And mind you, because of my stroke, my mouth didn't close all of the way. So some ice cream was like dripping down the side of my face. My head is tilted over. The ice cream is dripping down my shirt, and it's just going down my arms. And I know I'm just like making a complete mess. I know I looked a complete mess. And, there was this woman there, and she was like staring at me. And I noticed that she was staring at me. And I mean, at this point, I was kind of getting used to people staring at me, with my mother taking me out every day. And she was staring, like lingeringly staring, which was kind of awkward. And so she slowly walks up to my mother and was sort of just like, well, can I say a prayer for your daughter? And, my mother says, well, she gets a lot of prayers. We definitely appreciate prayers and everything, but if you like to say a prayer, say it on your own, sort of thing. Just trying to be nice to her, but kind of rebuff her, like kind of get her away. And then she starts talking to my mom, like, so what's wrong with her? And my mother explains, she had a brain aneurysm and she had brain surgery and she had a stroke on the table and all of this stuff. And she's kind of like lingering there, like very awkward in between each question. And then she finally says, like, well, what is her name? And I just looked at her and just screamed, my name is Chandra. Like, just acknowledge me. Like, just because I'm sitting here, I know I look crazy. I know I have this ice cream sandwich dripping down my shirt and my face and my arm. And I'm sitting there with an eye patch on with my head dripping over in a wheelchair. But just because I'm sitting there physically disabled does not mean that I cannot speak for myself. And that's my story about just being completely invisible because of being disabled. I think that it just has a lot to do with assumptions and stereotypes. Just because someone is physically disabled does not make them intellectually disabled. But that was my story for the day. I want you guys to tune in next time as we talk more about the stigmas and assumptions attached to being disabled. Be sure to join my So-Called Disabled Life Facebook page to join in lively discussions about disability. If you are enjoying this video, then join the family by subscribing to the channel and hit the notification bell.